chimney. It's the ink on my finger. In any case, I was thinking about cinema, and I was thinking about how when you have a niche interest in, let's say, a particular genre of cinema, a particular theatrical convention, or even outside of art, if we were to say that someone has a grasp over a certain philosophy or specializes in the history of a particular place at a particular time period, we are usually impressed by this. If you're young and you're doing this and the aim is not something religious, like you're doing it for your church and it's not for the service of another institution like school, you're doing it for your class. The fact that you're just doing this on your own as an individual society and there's no product, no social, no economic mechanism that will ensure that you are compensated for it. I mean, of course, you accrue cultural capital, but basically, when you do things like that, it's considered cool. Especially if you're at college and you're surrounded by young intellectuals, it's really cool to have these specializations, to be a resource on a particular subject. But I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how a friend of mine, when she learned that I was into the Iranian Revolution, she said, "Oh, I wish I knew about the history of places surrounding France, because she's from France." And I was a bit insulted by that, because she seemed to be less impressed by my knowledge of that than I know she might have been if I had said I was interested in a particular period of American history or Japanese history, someplace that in her mind is cast off so far away from, Asia, like my Asia, South Asia, And she sort of assumed that knowledge of Iranian history is knowledge that is accessible to me because of physical proximity to Iran. That is, because Pakistan is close to Iran on the map, perhaps all Pakistani children are exposed to Iranian culture, and my interest in it is not very exceptional. My point with this isn't that I should be I'm so cool for all that. My point is instead that because the colonizer's gaze is so provincial, it is unable to really see talent where talent is and to accord things their proper due. So knowledge over more than one language or knowledge of history, things that in any other context, by that same logic, their own internal logic, would be deemed impressive, cease to be deemed impressive because the immigrant is doing them. The same can be said of performance in the academic sphere. It's not as impressive to succeed in math if you're Chinese, because that is seen as a byproduct of a cultural context. You must have had a tiger mom or something. If you succeed in any way, it's because you have been conditioned by your culture to do so. And that culture has its own problems, so your final byproduct of success is really devalued. If you succeed at anything, it seems, in England, and you are not English, your success is not valued. It is decried. And I think that's really pathetic. Because I found myself trying to really impress people here. And I do still feel this responsibility of being a citizen of my nation and representative of a cultural history that I have inherited. But at the same time, I also just see myself as a person, a human being involved in the endeavor of greatness. Because I think that when you limit yourself to your country like that, you don't transcend that national barrier, and you fail to understand you limit yourself, because how you can be ambitious is suddenly limited to how your ancestors have been ambitious, how ambition presents itself within a national context. And I don't like compartmentalization. It makes guys treat their girlfriends poorly, and it also reinforces such boundaries as national, sexual, or racial. And that's a problem. So I was thinking about all this, and I think that the only solution to this is to push myself to the highest of human endeavor. My sister was saying that you need to stop being so preoccupied with trying to defeat the colonizer, because the goal isn't to just beat someone else. Like when I win a debate against someone at a conservative society, I mean, it's pretty easy to do because of that provincialism and that arrogance which blinds them to critical thought, because they're so used to having all of their ideas verified all the time and confirmed, and they're in this echo chamber, drunk on their own ego and that horrible wine they have. So that kind of prevents them from thinking clearly. So you can defeat them intellectually, you can overpower them. But choosing the final stage is sort of like forgiveness, I suppose, or to see him as an equal. And does that ennoble you to see yourself as an equal, to first become this high and then go to his level? I don't know. I think the colonizer is not a different species of human being. The colonizer is a human being. So the colonizer is capable of the same horror that you are capable of. The impulses that guide the colonizer are not different from the impulses that guide you. And Césaire says that it should not really concern you, it doesn't really matter whether in the private conscience of Peter or John how they think. And the goal isn't to individually sort of connect with them. And then I wonder, what is the goal? If the goal is not to individually dissect what Peter and John are doing and to humanize them and to see Peter and John as individuals, then what's the point? Césaire suggests that their actions as watchdogs of colonialism sort of outdo whatever impulses they may have personally, because they're far more destructive as agents of chaos. It doesn't matter if they're personally chaotic. But such a perspective seems dehumanizing to me. I think that's what I'm finding to be the problem with Césaire. It seems to view the colonizer as other species of human being, which I think is inaccurate and unhelpful, because the colonizer is a human being. And when we see each other as in these separate groups, that's what Aang says in Avatar The Last Airbender. The only illusion in this world is the illusion of separation. So we are not different from him. I'm trying to remind myself that. I was in the car with this boy I like, and he was speaking, and it suddenly struck me while he was speaking that he has an English accent. I like hearing his voice, and I think that I find a lot of English guys attractive. They're good looking and they have their voices and all. And I think that might be a problem, because in my appreciation of the English, I neglect the affairs back home. Maybe it's because the English guy comes with a bunch of comes with a bottle of liberalism that other guys back home don't. But those boys are not indicative of Pakistani potential. They're indicative of their upbringing, the time period, and society they found themselves, the circumstances they found themselves in being. So perhaps it doesn't speak to a national deficiency, it speaks to a cultural one. That's maybe what I should say next time when someone says to me, did you know Pakistan is the largest consumer of gay porn? Because I don't know anything clever to say to that, and I think it's pornography is bad, and repression is bad, and repressed conditions allow circumstances come about whereby a country criminalizes something that it is a specializer in. Gay porn. But I think that I haven't started The Colonizer and The Colonized, but I'm excited to, and I think I will really enjoy it. I think perhaps there's this gaze under which I am rendered, whereby I'm seen as exceptional in the worst way. And that the non-English student, international student is loud. Any achievements that they manage to do are the byproducts of them being exceptions in their own country that is incredibly wealthy, or is indicative of them being exceptions in the English country. That is, they're exceptions because of the cultural context, so they don't evoke agency. So I think the thesis, I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't reach a thesis in every video. Sometimes there is no question and there is no response, so no conclusion can be reached, but I think it adds a nice little bow, so I'll do it. I think that you have to be agent, you have to be active and autonomous, and I think you should be the best human being you can be. I think when you try to do good and be brave, other things around you start happening. When you stop being afraid of being by yourself, I think you become someone who is a viable romantic prospect, and I think that you have a better relationship in romance. And I think that you defeat the colonizer because you're organically great. When you're organically great, your actions start being organically good. This is the third video I'm talking about, aren't I? Action breeds impulse. So if you want to be organically better than the colonizer, or equal, or to just, I don't know, to say the colonizer's on a throne and you're here is to suggest that he is better than you because he is on a throne. So you want to topple his throne? What do you want to do? Do you want to build yourself a throne? Everybody has a throne. It's communism. It's Oprah. I'm not sure. So to be a good immigrant, you must be a good individual. You shouldn't aim to be an immigrant. You should aim to be a human being. My sister was talking about how odd it is that we have to get passports to go to other countries, and there are swathes of land, if that's the right word, that I cannot access because of documentation, and how that's absurd. And I saw this meme about how my Mughal ancestors are watching me as I'm struggling to get visas, even though they've conquered half the world. I think the suggestion that anyone can inherit land, I take issue with that. I mean, it's all of our land. Maybe that's the communism coming up. But yeah. Maybe this is just colonialism 1.